Good evening and hello, friends, and welcome inside the Birmingham Jefferson Civic Center for this week's edition of Wendy's Inside Bulls Hockey. I'm Michael Bentz. Well, this week we have a great show planned for you. You're not going to want to miss this one because not only do we sit down with Dennis Desrosiers, the Bulls head coach, and talk with Rosie about this game this past Tuesday night against the Jackson Bandits. We will also talk to Bulls forward Jeff Scarf, who recently had a 13-game point scoring streak. That's an ECHL high this season. And you're not going to want to miss his special smash hit that he will sing here tonight for you. So stay tuned. We're going to have a great show. We'll be back with more on Wendy's Inside Bulls Hockey. And welcome back to Wendy's Inside Bulls Hockey. Now joining us here is the head coach of the Birmingham Bulls, Dennis Desrosiers. And Coach, when we take a look back at the week that just took place, there was 2 road games first, trips to Biloxi, Mississippi and Pensacola, Florida. We split those 2 games, so we get 2 out of 4 points, but they were 2 very different hockey games when you take a look back at them. The first one, Mississippi, the guys just gave up a lot of odd-man rushes. There was a lot of breakdowns defensively, but then the game in Pensacola, we didn't see as much of that, and you guys were able to tighten up a little bit and pick up 2 points there. So talk a little bit about those 2 games.
Well, I'll tell you, the Mississippi game I was very disappointed in. We gave up way too many goals. We scored 5 goals on the road. You'd like to think if you can get that many on the road, you might get a point or 2 out of it, get into a shootout, whatever, possibly win a hockey game. We took either 6 or 7 penalties in that game, and 5 of them were just undisciplined penalties that there was no need to take. One was too many men on the ice where someone wasn't paying attention. Another one was a double minor in the neutral zone behind the play that didn't have to happen. Another one was a mouthing penalty, and just on and on down the list, that stuff that didn't have to happen. We lose by 2 goals. They score 2 power play goals on the undisciplined penalties. And you don't mind taking penalties, and you don't mind killing penalties off if they're good penalties and deserved penalties, and they're hard-working penalties. But mouthing off and complaining and behind the play in the neutral zone, stuff that doesn't have to happen, those calls are just unacceptable, and they cost us a hockey game. And not to mention that we did not play good defensively. The defense did not play good. The goaltending was average, and the forwards didn't come back and help the defense out. So I was very unhappy. That's a game that we very easily could have won with some discipline. And you know, there's no excuse for discipline. I mean, January and February are, to put it in perspective to baseball, are the dog days of winter, if you will. It's when you're halfway through the season, or a little better than halfway, and there's tiredness, and there's injuries, and there's frustration, and there's the heat of the battle, and all that stuff goes on. But you have to be able to overcome that. To be a professional and to be good at what you do, you can't let those things get to you. This is when the true professionals are able to operate within the system and be very effective. And it's when a lot of teams can be undisciplined. You can win hockey games by keeping discipline and keeping your work ethic going and taking advantage of other teams' disarray. And we found ourselves being the team in disarray, and I don't like it very much.
And then the Sunday game against the Ice Pilots, though, your team performs much differently than they did against Biloxi. I think you and I would both agree on that. And by doing so, they go to the shootout. They win the shootout in 7 rounds, and you pick up 2 points. Did that help salvage that real quick 2-game weekend trip?
Well, of course. Anytime you can go 500 on the road, you'd like to think that's a good thing to shoot for the entire season. And we are, I believe, 9-7-4 on the road, so we're over 500, and that helped preserve our 500-plus record on the road. So, yeah, it was big, and especially when you're in first place or near first, all the points are big. Everybody's coming hard. Everybody's close, within 6 or 8 points of the top. So you really don't have room for an extended period of bad play. And anytime you can pick up points like that, they're big. And, you know, we got ourselves into a situation to win the hockey game on the road, and we capitalized on it. I thought Avi played very well the entire game. He had been 0-2 in shootouts and came up big and won the shootout for us, so it was a nice night.
And then it was on to Tuesday night earlier this week at the BJCC. The Bulls taking on the Jackson Bandits is our featured game of the week. And, Coach, you talked about Krunikar making some big saves in the shootout. You gave him his first back-to-back starts this season. And you're going to see here on the clips, Jackson's going to score very quickly, 2 quick goals, one of them shorthanded on their first 2 shots. Give us your analysis on what happened at the very beginning of this hockey game where they were able to jump out 2-0 on you.
Well, I think it was a total lack of preparation on our part. I think that our warm-up was bad. The ice in the building was bad, and I think the guys let that get to them. And I watched warm-up. I thought, I'm going, is this in slow motion or what? I mean, that's the worst warm-up I've ever seen in my life. I went in and talked to them, tried to get them up, and we went out and just followed the warm-up to a T, took it into the game, and the first 2 shots on goal were in the net, and the party was on. We never did dig out of that hole.
And then you can see the Jackson Bandits would eventually take a 3-0 lead. You elected to put Scott Roach in favor of Avi Karunakar, and finally we get on the scoreboard. Hugo Belanger, he worked pretty hard down here with his forward line mates to get open and get the shot past the Jackson netminder Brumby.
Yeah, Hugo's a pretty good offensive player, and you know, that line hasn't really totally gelled yet with Bodnarchuk and Hicks, but I think that'll be a good line before it's all said and done.
Coach, the next clip we're going to look at is they get a rather flukish goal from the neutral zone. They flip the puck up ice along the left wing, and they're going to get a backhanded goal with 17 seconds left in the period. And I know at that point you still have 40 minutes of hockey, but did you kind of get a feeling, did you get a sense that, oh boy, it could be a long night for the team?
Well, I thought it was a soft goal, and I thought that Johnson played it poorly, and you got to get down and block that. The ice is bad. You've got to really be careful with those things. And I thought it was just a little bit too nonchalant on a lot of people's part. And when you play like that, you're going to find yourself in trouble. And I just don't think we were sharp all night.
And then you would see Belanger would pick up his second goal of the evening. It was his 19th of the year. Getting the assist was Jamie Hicks and Tyler Johnston. So now he has 19 goals. And this is a guy we've talked about before, Dennis. Is it a guy that his play is picked up in your sense? He's still giving you the offensive production.
Well, I think that Hugo is probably a guy that I've ridden more as a coach than anybody in the history of me coaching. And the reason I do that is I think he's got so much to offer that's untapped. I think if Hugo were to apply himself and play hard all the time, he'd have the capabilities of playing at the next level. The reason he's not at the next level is because he doesn't play hard all the time. And for whatever reason, he's hard to motivate. And he's just an untapped wealth of talent. And, you know, he could be easy 100 to 120 point man in this league if he played hard every shift, every night. And, you know, he's very skilled. He's a great kid. I like him a lot as a person. But if he were just to apply himself a little more to the game of hockey, he'd be very, very pleased with what he would see.
Yeah, at that point, it was pretty much going to be it for the Bulls, because in the third period, you're going to see here Kevin Popp gets into a little bit of an altercation with one of the Jackson forwards. He gets a penalty. And Dennis, we've talked about this before. Undisciplined penalties, undisciplined play, in moments of games where you can ill afford it. And right there, pretty much hurt any chances you would have to get back into that game.
That's right. And, you know, I don't want to jump on Pop here because he's an aggressive guy. But you have to take each and every situation into account. You know, Johnson had already been ejected at that point for coming to Hicks's rescue earlier on. And we're down to 4 defensemen. And Pop's out there killing a penalty. So obviously we're shorthanded already. There's 1 minute and 31 seconds left in their power play, and Kevin takes a penalty that I don't believe you have to take in that situation. There's nothing going on right there. He's not in immediate danger of having a goal scored on us. And Kevin takes a cross-checking penalty, and then he amplifies it by mouthing off and taking a 10 on top of it. So now we're down to 3 defensemen, which is a bad enough hole, but the biggest problem is we're down on a power play 5-on-3 situation. They score. Now, we're down 2 goals, but if we get a goal, pull the goaltender, I've seen stranger things happen. They score on that 5-on-3, make it 6-3, and that pretty much eliminates any chance we had. So, I mean, lack of discipline there really hurts us. Now, our chances of coming back, 2 goals down with, what, 6-7 minutes left? Slim, but nonetheless a chance. Coming back, 3 goals down, virtually impossible. I mean, you don't see that maybe once every few years or so. So it took us out of it, and those are undisciplined things that we've just got to overcome. With the loss of Kelly Perreault up there, guys like Pop have to step into situations, and as a player, you would like to think they would relish the idea of taking on the added responsibility of stepping into these high-pressure situations where you have to make the right decision and think. But we're not responding. The guys that are taking these positions that are left open by Kelly being gone are not responding very well mentally to the situations. They're not living up to the responsibility that it takes to play in these positions. That's why Kelly plays 40 minutes a game when he's here, is because he takes that responsibility very well and he handles it very well. Now, some of the guys quarterbacking the power play, killing penalties and such, they're not handling that responsibility very well. And I know if I was a player and I wasn't playing a lot and one of the key guys left, I would be relishing the thought of being able to jump into his role and making it so that if he ever came back, that maybe I would get to keep some of that responsibility. But right now, we're not getting anybody that wants to take that responsibility factor and run with it. So I'm concerned right now about our defense. I think we're going to have to make some changes. We're going to have to get some people in here and have a little bit of a different look back there. And I mean, that's one of my priorities at this point.
So the Jackson Bandits defeat the Bulls by a score of 6-4 Tuesday night at the BJCC. And for Jackson, it was their first win in 3 tries against the Bulls. Fans, we need to step aside. We'll be back with more on Wendy's Inside Bulls Hockey.